أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وموالاه. When we reflect on the Prophet's life, alayhi salatu wassalam, we realize that it was his single-minded devotion, his emphasis and focus on hope, and most importantly, his trust in Allah that brought success to his personal mission and also to the endeavors of those who strived with him. And by the grace of Allah, it was the Prophet's positive attitude, his inspirational approach, and of course, his merciful character that raised people to live according to their highest potential. Many people have a potential, but they don't realize the potential. Sometimes we neutralize them. Even as parents, sometimes we neutralize the parents or minimize the potential, not realizing. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam always raised the potential of people or made them realize their potential. And the prophetic example, the way he dealt with people, engaged people, was always inspiring, always motivating. And much of the sunnah of mu'ashara, meaning his engagement with society, much of it was manifested in how he encouraged and how he enabled people. I will quote two brief incidences from his distinguished life that could serve as an inspiration. One, early in the mission, the people of Mecca ostracized the Prophet ﷺ, and of course, particularly his preaching of Tawheed, the oneness of Allah, and eventually he had to leave Mecca and try to go and convey the message to people outside Mecca. And he went to the nearby town of Taif to convey the message. And the people of Taif collectively insulted him, and some even threw him with stones to the extent that he was bleeding from his injuries that he sustained. While wiping off his blood from his own body, the angels asked the Prophet, "In shi'ta an udbika alayhimul akhjabain," if you want, invoke Allah to condemn these people and we turn the mountains upon them, turn the hills of Taif upon them. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam responded, "Inni lam ub'ath la'anan wa innama bu'ithtu rahmatan." Another version, "Innama ana rahmatun muhda." He said, I have not been sent to curse and to condemn people. I've been sent as a mercy that's also a guide to the people. The Prophet ﷺ refused to condemn the people of Taif, but rather prayed for them, and he said hopingly, لَعَلَّ اللَّهَ يُخْرِجَ مِنْ أَصْلَابِهِمْ مَنْ يَقُولَ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Perchance, if not them, then from their children and their offspring, someone will say La ilaha illallah somewhere along the line. And that's why the poet says, Salam un par, jisne galia sunkar du'ai di. The poet says in Urdu, salutation upon that Prophet who listened to the insults and the curses and the swearing of people and responded with prayer for them. He made dua for them. Though Taif was the first town that the Rasul went to preach the message of Islam outside Mecca, Taif was the last town to accept Islam before he passed away. But he refused to condemn them. He refused to curse them. Even when the angels, not people, angels said these people are worthy of condemnation. The other example is that of Tufail bin Amr. He was a well-known poet, a chief of a well-known tribe in the southern Arabian Peninsula. His tribe was known as the Daws, the tribe of Daws. And he was a well-known poet. And Tufail actually, when he came to Makkah, he didn't come for anything to do with religion. He came to meet for business reasons. And the chiefs of Quraysh met him and they honored him and they welcomed him as a chief. And one of them advised him, look, do me a favor, one of our cousins is making trouble in our town. He's coming with a new religion about one God and so on. Avoid him. He said, why? He said, no, he's got magic in his words. He's got poetic words. Try to avoid him and, just stay clear of him. So Tufail said, no, I'm a poet myself. I'm a chief myself. Nobody can bamboozle me. I'll listen to him and see what he has to say. Long story short, Tufail, when he heard the Rasul, he said, Wallahi, this is not magic. This is not poetry. This is something beyond that. This must be revelation, and he embraced Islam. He went back to his people when he embraced Islam. His father, mother, his family embraced Islam. But his rest of his tribe, most of them, refused. Tufail then came back after a while and said, Ya Rasulullah, إنه قد غلبني على الدوس الزنا والربا فادعوا الله أن يهلك دوسا. He said, my people, the more I tell them to stay away from things, usury and fornication and these things, they deliberately show me a point, and those things I tell them not to do, they do it even more. Then he said, Ya Rasulullah, فادعوا الله أن يهلك دوسا. I ask you to pray that Allah may condemn and destroy my people. May Allah destroy my people. The Prophet ﷺ did lift up his hand and he said the famous word, Allahumma hdi dawsan wa ati bihim muslimin. Oh Allah, guide the people of Daws and bring them to Islam. The Prophet then turned to Tufail, the chief of the tribe, who went to preach Islam and who was an example to them, and yet they didn't follow him. He said to them, Irji' ila qawmik, fad'uhum warfuq bihim. Now you return to your people. You still invite them to the truth and make sure that you're kind and gentle to them. Warfuq bihim. You be kind to them. Tufail did exactly as the Prophet ﷺ told him. Time went by, never heard of Tufail. 2 years before the Rasul passed away, just after the Battle of Khaybar. The Prophet was in Medina, peaceful time somewhat, and then they saw a large crowd of people coming on the horizon, and some people thought maybe it's an army coming to attack, and the Muslims watched. The people of Medina watched. And they said, but these people are very peaceful, they're coming very gently. Who are these people? It was Tufail bin Amr. He came with the entire tribe of Daws. 80 families, men, women, and children. Each one had embraced Islam. You see, this was the Daws tribe whom their chief came to ask the Prophet to ask for the destruction. This is the Daws tribe whom the Prophet refused to curse because he had hope in them and he prayed for them. You see, the Prophet truly inspired and emboldened people. Rather than dissuading, he persuaded people. Rather than impeding people, he empowered people. Rather than disheartening people, he motivated people. Rather than discouraging people, he inspired people. And rather than condemning people, he prayed for them. The least we can do is to pray, at least for our family and our friends. And the Rasul prayed even for his enemies. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Islamic City will continue its mission to cultivate peace, inspire action, explore positive solutions, and encourage purposeful living through the universal teachings of Islam. Please, donate now.